Hey there, this is Lucius Laframboise from ENG Suite, and today we are going to continue and actually finish up Excel VBA ranges. So far we've learned about all of the properties and the different methods, and today we're finally going to start looking at coloring the background of our cells. That way we can finish off our formatting. So we've already got this public sub range interior. And what we've done is we've taken cell C2. So let's go take a look at cell C2. So here we are. C2 is this one right here. So we're going to be doing all of our stuff right here. And then we'll take a look at these Excel pattern enumerations in a second. So back in our VBA, first thing we want to do is set the interior color. So that's like the background color. So to do that, we're just going to take our cell that we've already declared and say cell.interior.color equals, and then we can use any color scheme that we want. We're going to use RGB, and we're going to be doing 255, 200, 200, and that's going to set it to a nice light pink. So let's run our sub and take a look at what we've got. And look at that, C2 is this kind of pinkish color. So there we go, we've set the interior. But let's say we already have the interior set and we want to get rid of it. So we want this to go back to normal, to no fill. Well, to do no fill, we're going to use Range.Interior.Pattern. So we'll say cell.interior.pattern, and we're going to set that equal to Excel pattern none. Okay, I'm going to comment this out since we're not using that. And then now what it's going to do, it's going to take cell C2 and set its pattern to Excel pattern none, and we run that. And if we come in here, we look, it is no fill. So that is awesome. Now we know how to no fill. But let's learn a little bit more about this interior.pattern. So here we have all of our different patterns, and we're actually going to take a look. So each pattern can either be used using the enum or the value here. So like, for example, we did pattern none. So we could have typed in equals Excel pattern none, or we could have typed in equals -4142. So either way, you can do it how you want. This way is a little more descriptive. This way seems kind of random. But what we're going to do now is I have some code that I'm going to run that's just going to show you what all of these look like. So let's go back into VBA, and I'm just going to copy and paste it because it takes a little bit, and then I'll explain it. So I'm going to comment this out since we don't need that anymore. Okay, so first thing we're doing is we're taking that range, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the interior pattern to the cell value, so G3 to G22. And here we are, G3 to G22. So it's just going to be this middle one here, okay? Because we can't use and set text. Enum means it's not actually a string. It's an actual like variable that's set in VBA behind the scenes. So we can only set based on these values if we're taking them from the workbook. So again, we'll do that. And you know what? Let's come in here and let's run it from here. Macros, and it's range interior, and then we run, and look at that, we have each pattern. Okay, that's pretty cool. Pattern checker, crisscross, lots of different patterns. You'll notice no pattern, you'll notice solid color, and automatic all kind of seem to be doing nothing, and that's because right now we don't have themes set that would control the pattern automatic and the pattern solid. Okay, so now you might be thinking, what if I want to change the color? I want my pattern color to be something different. I don't like this black and white. So let's come in here and let's do pattern cell dot interior dot pattern color. And we're going to set this RGB 200, 200, 255. So that's going to be like a light blue color. All right, and let's run that. And now we come back in here, and you notice, again, Excel pattern automatic, no pattern none, and pattern solid still are just plain white. But you'll notice that these all have some blue in there. So that's pretty cool. But what if we don't want any white? What if we want to change the other color? Well, then we can just do pattern cell dot interior dot color, equals RGB 255 200 200. So now, here, I'll come back in here, where all of those white spaces, those little tiny white line squares, those are going to be red, okay? Because there's, in a pattern, there's two different colors. There's the pattern color, which is all of the lines that are put on there, and then there is the actual background color, the interior color, which is just the background that those lines are drawn on. So let's run that macro from in here, range interior, and there we go. And you will see that it looks pretty good, but you'll notice now pattern none has red, and that's because of the order that we're running in. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to set the pattern after those colors. That way that pattern none is actually going to wipe it. So the patterning will happen after. So now if we run it, you'll see pattern automatic. So that is going to use just that fill color. Checkerboard, everything looks great. It's kind of hard to see. They kind of just look purpley, but if you can see, they're there. And then pattern none turns back to no fill. All right, so patterns, pretty cool. But let's talk a little bit about gradient. Let's say you want to get pretty fancy. So we'll get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. It's all in here, so I'll just call this set Range.Interior.Pattern color in case you want to use this as a reference. Okay, so interior gradient. This one's a little bit more difficult. It's going to take some with statements and stuff, but it shouldn't be too bad. So the first thing we're going to do is start with our width, cell.interior. Okay, and then I'm just going to end with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is set pattern. Oops. Pattern equals Excel pattern linear gradient. And there's a few different gradients you can use, but I'm just using a linear here. And then we're going to set our dot gradient dot degree equals 90. And we'll kind of go into some of these other little properties in a second. And then we're going to do dot gradient dot color stops dot clear. So what we want to do first is clear our color gradients. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say width cell.interior.Gradient.color stops dot add, and then dot color equals, and then you can use any coloring format. So here I'm actually going to just use this long number here that will signify a value. And then we want to set our tint and shade. If you remember from our text, you'll know what tint and shade kind of does. And we'll set that equal to 0, and then we will end with. Move that back. Okay, let's add another gradient. So what I'm going to do this time is copy, because we're actually going to do a couple. This one's going to be 0.5, and our color code is going to be 7961087. And then this one we're going to do at 1. So your color stops happen between values of 0 and 1, and that is like the percentage. So 0 is all the way at the beginning, 1 is all the way at the end, and you can think of it sort of as this is happening at 50%. And then for this one, we are going right back so we can kind of see something cool. So let's take a look at what this does. And this is on cell C2. And if you look, it is white and then comes down to a nice red. So let's take a look at some of these properties. So the first property we want to take a look at is, let's look at this degree. So if you remember, that was like a horizontal line. Let's do 45 and see what happens. And now it's at a 45-degree angle. So there's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do. Let's try changing. Let's say we start with maybe 200, 200, 255. So that, again, is that light blue color. And we run that. And now you see it starts at the light blue, into that red, into white. So now let's change this one. Let's go to like, let's say RGB, and we'll do 200, 255, 200, and then we'll kind of do the same thing here. RGB, 255, 200, 200. And then I'm going to change this to be 0.75 so that we can kind of see what happens here. And let's run that. And you'll see now our red has kind of moved down into the corner there. So that is pretty much it when it comes to styling your cells. You can do a lot of really, really cool stuff. I don't know how useful Gradient's going to be, but I do know that it is nice to be able to have this kind of control and set some automatic formatting, which we'll do later, that is based on workbook events. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and I can't wait to see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and please do something awesome.